So, Jack makes tea today in Samurai Jack, and Power Rod finally gets Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Yeah, we're all screwed. Anyway, this is Zero Views. Welcome back. I am Zero, your host, like always. So, let's start with Samurai Jack, and I was not, how would you say, what's it called? I was I was not kidding when I said about tea. So, the episode begins with a flashback scene where Jack's explaining to Ashi how he lost his sword. The basic thing is Jack's going up the Spiral Mountain to get to a time portal because he's heard there might be a time portal up there. He's followed by three little rams, and he manages to get into the time portal only to get pulled back by Aku. And he destroys the portal. And now I'm thinking to myself, so what exactly did cause Jack to never age anyway? Was it going through the time portal the first time? Or was it this? Because I don't think we've ever seen Jack go through a time portal and then get pulled out of it before. Like, what's it called? Like, he's gotten close, but he's never gone in one, actually. And, this is, he's in the middle of going back to the past when Aku, gets him out. So I'm wondering if that's what caused him to not age. If so, man, Aku, you kind of, you suck. So yeah, he taunts Jack, and, Jack's like, that's his breaking point, because, it's the last time portal in existence. And, he turns the three rams into monstrous forms to attack the samurai while he, escapes. Jack fights and kills, the corrupted, rams, losing his sword because he gets freaked out by the fact that they were the tiny little rams, and then he lets go of his sword, and then what's it called? A collapsing pillar makes the sword go down the hole where the time portal was, because the mountain, aside from the portal, it's very hollow inside, as we'll see in a bit. But yeah, that's how Jack loses his sword. And Ashi and Jack use this bird thing to go inside, and they get to the bottom, and Jack's all he realizes, I didn't lose my sword, the sword left me. So he goes on the spiritual quest while Ashi, decides to guard, Jack, since, he's kind of meditating at the moment. So, he can't really, it's kind of if I had equated anything, it's like the Avatar state from Avatar, when you're going into the state, you can't get killed, or else the cycle of reincarnation cannot, continue, or whatever. Obviously, if Jack got killed while he was meditating, he wouldn't have been able to get back the sword, because, he'd be dead. So yeah, Ashi, what's it called? Ashi's busy, beating down an army. That's most of her, that's half of her episode. Right there. I say episode because, it's basically split into two parts at this point, which is Ashi versus the army, and, Jack finding the sword. So, Ashi, he's single-handedly defeating the army, and he spots an assassin that's that's managed to slip by while everyone was fighting, and, it's heading to the mountain, and, she gets the bird, who helps her catch up, and it's revealed that the assassin is actually the High Priestess, Ashi's mom. So Ashi and the High Priestess have a very big fight because, Ashi was trained by her, and obviously the High Priestess is a pretty tough opponent, and Ashi technically doesn't win the fight because she gets caught under a bunch of rubble. Eventually, what's it called? Ashi kills I'd like to say she kills the High Priestess, because the High Priestess, she jumps up into the air, and Ashi throws one of the arrows that the mother used, and is scattered on the battlefield. She uses one of the arrows, which pierces the mother's stomach, and then the mother falls off the cliff because of the momentum because Jack decided to meditate right at the cliffside for some reason. So yeah, it's a very good ending note for Ashi because what's it called? She up until this point she'd been kind of like breaking away from her past, and basically her killing the person who lied to her and basically sent her on a suicide mission. What's it called? Lied to her and sent her on a suicide mission. She finally got past that. Now, Jack, though, Jack, he's in the spirit realm, and like he goes to this little monk. He's all like, "Oh, let's make tea or whatever," because Jack says like he's lost and stuff, and what's it called? The monk says that Jack's tea is terrible. Like, you did everything right, but you're missing a key ingredient, balance. And as a consequence, the path to his sword will still remain hidden. Jack's begging the monk to show him the real path to the sword, but the monk's all like, I cannot do that. You can only do that. You know what I mean? And it reminds me back to the Aku infection. I remember watching that episode recently, where Jack gets infected by Aku and starts to turn evil, and like he's begging these these lizard monks or whatever to help him, but they're all like, you cannot do that. It's all like, we cannot do that. You must be the one to do that. And Jack eventually does that. Now, Jack's hallucination of himself, shows up one more time, and he's getting angry. He's claiming like the monk knows where it is, and he's all like, "You're in my way," and Jack's all like, "No, you're in my way." It's like it's all like my own frustrations, kept him from finding the sword and such. Eventually, once he sees the truth, Jack dispels like hallucination Jack once and for all, and with his balance restored, Jack soon finds himself, he finds himself facing the supreme deities that created the sword in the first place. Odin, Ra, and Vishnu. A lot of people I've seen, apparently there's a lot of people who are all calling this Deus Ex Machina with the gods, but that's the thing though. They're the ones who created the sword and gave Jack's father the sword to beat Aku the first time. It's basically explained in this two-part episode, but that basically gives the origin of Aku and the sword that vanquishes evil and stuff, Eventually, they deem him worthy once more, restore his original appearance and his sword, and give him back his sword, and he's now more powerful after finally like getting rid of his doubts and regaining balance. So Jack wakes up, to find Ashi unconscious. The two talk a bit. We have like a kind of mirror of the last episode where Jack's all like, "Oh, it's like your hair looks nice, and the outfit too." And she's all Ashi's all like, "Hey, you got your sword back, and shaving a haircut too." And with the sword back, Ashi asks, "What can we do now?" And Jack's all like, "It's time to confront Aku." So yeah, next episode looks like it might be a filler episode, which I don't mind because I guess they want to get at least one episode in of what's it called, of Ashi and regular Jack, Jack from previous seasons. I guess they want to get a taste of like what a filler episode, or what a regular episode would be with reformed Ashi and regular Jack, because up until this point we've kind of had a mix. We've had Ashi who still wanted to kill him, with Jack who had no hope and stuff, and it wasn't that whole perfect balance that we have now with both reformed Ashi and Jack, Jack's back, baby. So yeah. Other than that, not much to say on Samurai Jack. It was a good episode. I really liked it. A lot of people say it was kind of rushed, and while I do agree, I'd rather them not, take any longer to, to drag out the finding of the sword, so it's fine by me. So, Kamen Rider Exade, episode 29. When we're close to 30. June's almost here, so we're gonna get Hyper Muteki soon. But first, we've got ourselves a villain power-up this episode. So, as of last episode, Parad possessed Emu's body, and just basically been using it to parade around in, before, explaining to Emu what the deal is with their connection. So, I was basically right in my theory before, so just a couple of things that kind of clarify here. So, what's it called? It all starts, with Parad. He takes him to Graphite. Graphite's all like, dude, don't scare me like that, okay? And, Emu's all like, it's like, what do you want with me? It's all like, come on, Emu, do you want me to, level up so you can take me seriously? And he pulls out a gamer driver, which is Genmu's. It gets confirmed this episode by Taiga. And, they guesstimate on if it's Genmu's or not, but them guesstimating basically says it is, because, why would they drop that line, you know what I mean? And Parad would not, argue it. So, he puts the gamer driver on, puts his Gashot into the driver, and opens it up, but nothing happens. He's like, oh, yeah, humans are the only ones who can use a gamer driver, so that's an interesting little tidbit of information. Excuse me. So, what's it called? So, Parad takes Emu to a park, and takes control of his body and transforms into the Mighty Brothers Double X, and he is the Orange Brother, because how the Orange Brother was more like the aggressive side, the M persona. That's Parad in that role now that he's possessed Emu's body. So the way they're connected, I was mostly right. So it all starts with Dan giving Emu Mighty Action C to infect him with the Bugster virus because he's all salty and stuff about Emu having ideas just as good as him. So, Dr. Hinata operates on him. The virus at that point is basically just infects him like a normal standard virus. So, Dr. Hinata is able to, suppress it for the time being. It manifests as Emu's desire to play games. Now, obviously, he had that desire as a kid, because obviously, why would he be riding the Genmu Corporal of all things? But the desire manifests as Parad, who Emu wanted to play. He wanted a friend to play games with. Parad basically becomes the genius gamer M persona and is the one that makes that. Eventually, after maturing enough with the tournament against Nico in Tekken, what's it called? 6 years before the events of the series, Dan gets Dr. Pac-Man to remove the virus from from Emu, and the virus manifests itself as Parad. So after that, Dr. Pac-Man and his men, they disappear. That's done with. Dan gets Parad, and it's basically the full Bugster virus now. Now, the reason Emu probably didn't become a destructive sociopath before any of this happened is because of Emu's kind nature that kind of reined back Parad from trying to do anything funny. Now that we know that, Parad's basically been off a leash for 6 years. And he has this very childlike mentality, because technically he's only 6 years old. Even though he has the body of, a young adult. So, what's it called? I keep saying so much. I should probably stop doing that, but hey, that's the jig. Okay, so anyway, after that, we find out the connection between Parad and Emu. They do have a connection. There's still, again, they extracted the Bugster virus, but there's still a bit in Emu. And through that, there's a connection between Parad and Emu. That connection started to grow stronger once Emu started using Gashots, obviously. So, Parad and Emu share a kind of heart-to-heart connection. It's why certain things happened the way they did. Like, how would you say? When Genmu tried to take Mighty Brothers Double X that one time when he took Brave's good shot, Emu reacted and managed to push Genmu back. And that was basically Parad who helped him do that. And Parad, like, now this brings in a whole new level of sadness to Burgermon's death. So it turns out Parad was very, very sad about Burgermon's death. So much so that it affected Emu, and, that's why he's, like, yelled out, it's all like, how could you do this? Burgermon was a good boy and stuff, That's why he yelled that out. And then, when Emu was supposed to disappear, he didn't. Emu was going to die if once the stress built up, because there was no real Bugster to take over, obviously, because the Bugster had been taken out. And that's why any attempts to do surgery on Emu failed, because, Parad was already out and running about. But, yeah, so... oh, jeez. Sorry about that. Had to stretch. Okay, so... because of that, basically we find out that Parad possessed Emu, and that's why he was acting like a big jerk during the Tattle Fantasy debut. And it was basically for Parad to relieve all the stress from Emu, and that's how that's how everything, got out. Actually, if considering Parad did possess Emu, I guess you could say Parad transformed into Eggzade Mighty Action X, which is interesting. But yeah, so Parad's basically perverted Emu's whole "I'll clear this with no continues" by giving him a continue. And Parad has this very sick toyetic obsession with Emu. It's all like, I'm the one who decides your fate. You have no control. Fight me and try and defeat me so that you can prove that you have control over your fate. But it actually turns out to be a trap, because Parad basically gives Emu the tools to use reprogramming, and that basically imprints Parad's DNA, Emu's DNA onto Parad. And so that allows him to use the gamer driver. Meanwhile, everyone in the CR is putting this together, and Hiro and Taiga eventually show up with Nico, who, now that she knows that it was Parad during the tournament 6 years ago, now she's targeting Parad in terms of, like, who she wants to beat up. And that's not good, because, he's got level 99 now that he has access to the gamer driver. So the idea is he couldn't use the gamer driver because he didn't have the human DNA. He wasn't human. But now that he has an imprint of human DNA on him, he's able to use it like anyone would normally. So they could try and do this real easily and see if, like, Emu could reprogram the human DNA out of him, but who knows. We've got a new form debut, Paradox Perfect Knockout. It's a beast. It takes the defensive capabilities of Perfect Puzzle and the offensive capabilities of Knockout Fighter, and mixes them up so perfectly, and enhances them so greatly. And then he also gets his own Gashikan weapon, the Gashikan Parabre gun. So basically, it's an axe and a gun, and the way it works is, instead of it powering up like randomly, it actually powers up to chain combos together, which is actually kind of cool, because, puzzle games, it's all about chaining up those combos to, get cool effects and defeat your opponent easily and stuff. And then fighting games, it's all about the combos, so, that's really cool, because, puzzles, it's all about the chains, and, fighting games. It's all about the combos. So I really thought that was that's a cool gimmick they got for the Parabray gun. But yeah, Snipe level 50 gets utterly wrecked by, Paradox 99, who I should mention can use power-ups on both himself and the weapon during the finisher, because he basically clones himself to deal with the barrage of bullets from Snipe level 50, while using a metal power-up to metalize the bullets in his main finisher attack, which basically knocks Snipe out of his transformation. In comes Hero with Tattle Fantasy, and Brave Tattle Fantasy, and that's when Paradox goes close range with the axe mode, and he just utterly wrecks him. Like, he does a 7-hit combo, and even though Brave blocks it, he just, he's still hit by the attacks because it's just that strong. So, Brave tries to do a Tattle critical slash against Parad, who basically uses a speed up on himself and a muscle up on his axe to make its hit stronger, and basically kicks his ass. And then, Emu goes Maximum Mighty X, who at this point was suffering from effects of the Bugster virus, now that I think he's kind of separated Parad from him, in a sense. I'm not actually sure what the reprogramming did, aside from give Parad human DNA, but hey. So, Emu goes level 99. The two have a rider kick clash, but Emu loses, badly. Holy shit, is Paradox very, very powerful. And it ends with basically Parad taking Emu's body, saying, Emu's mine, and, waltzing off with it. The second part of this episode, which didn't receive a lot of focus, but still received major focus at the very end, was Poppy. She's finally getting memories of her host's past self, or past, life, and she, Dan Kuroto, the man of fucking contingency plans, okay? So, the memory she's getting, she basically, her host was basically someone very, very close to Dan, and I'm assuming it's his mother, because why else would it be some random secretary? And to be honest, Dan would fucking infect his mom with the Bugster virus just to get a contingency plan out that would only occur so many years later. Dan would do that, trust me. After watching Kamen Sentai Go Rider, yeah, trust me, Dan would do that. So Poppy goes to investigate, and she eventually comes across this hidden room with a chest in it that's been placed recently. How recently? I'd like to say episode 23, because there's not that much dust on it. She finds a manual of talking about level 0, and then she finds a Proto Mighty Action X shot and a gamer driver in the belt. About the Proto Mighty Action X, it's not the one that Dan uses at all. It's actually a black variant with the gray cover, except the cover art is for the Proto Mighty Action X and not regular Mighty Action X. So it's like a proto version of the one Dan used. So yeah, next week we have a very climactic battle between Emu and Parad, most likely, and the debut of Genmu level 0. Who will it be? Probably Dan, even though, Poppy announces Genmu level 0, but she could just be announcing Dan or whatever. But yeah, we also get the return of Kamen Rider Poppy next week, with blue eyes this time, so, that's pretty cool. Overall, this episode was really, really good, because we finally found out what the deal was with Emu and what his condition what the Bugster virus finally is, and like, you know, connection to Parad, and it basically clears up everything that everyone's had questions with the virus, and I'm glad they were able to finally put that to rest, because I don't know how many other episodes I would have endured, like, not knowing the specifics. But we know everything about the past, basically, now. We just don't know the specifics of Taiga's ordeal in it, which will get explained within Snipe Episode 0. So yeah, overall, really good episodes. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the next Samurai Jack, if it's going to be filler or not. And then with, how do you say, Kamen Rider Exade. Man, I'm blanking. So, with Kamen Rider Exade, this week, you know, next episode is looking really, really, really good. Like, you know, we're gonna get this big climactic battle against Emu in his strongest form and Parad in his strongest form, and then Dan the Man might come back, so, oh boy, this should be interesting. So yeah. Anyway, I'm Zero. I'll be seeing you guys next time. This was a good week. Yeah, see you guys next time.